I think that stories constitute our lives. Stories are the way that we think about what has happened and will happen and could happen to us. When any of us think back through our memories, we don't access memories as they were. Not even the most visual people do that. It's always constructed in some form of story. And when we read about things, we learn about other people's perspectives. I think that I am a little bit unusual in that I started reading when I was 2.5, and I was reading books like Lolita by the time I was 12. My grandfather worked on Lolita as a college professor, and so my parents sort of felt like, well, we can't tell her she's not allowed to read this, like her grandfather works on this. For me, that was one of the major sort of formative books, because I so strongly recognized Lolita's perspective about the adult world. Not that I was abused or anything, but the idea that adults want things from her that she doesn't want to give them and really just wants to make them go away and will sort of negotiate with them to make them do that, right? In ways that can be very self-destructive and so forth, but fundamentally exist for her own means, for her own reasons, and not for any of theirs. And I can remember when I started understanding that other people had their own separate experiences of the world in an adult way. And it had to do with fanfic. It had to do with writing fanfic. I was writing Harry Potter fanfiction, and I can see when I look back at my old fanfic, which hopefully has been scrubbed from the internet, I can see the moment where my characters sort of stopped being paper dolls and started being humans. And I think that it's a very common experience to have this. I think most people don't have that moment sort of so well documented and so well formulated in their brains as I did, but I think almost everybody has this moment. And it has to happen through story, because if you never heard those stories, how would you ever have an awareness of somebody else's cognition? If you never read a story that was from the perspective of somebody you found hateful or who you just didn't understand, how would you ever know what was going on in there? How would you train your imagination to think like that? This is related also to why I think it's important to have diverse stories told. Why I'm, for instance, so excited to have, on this very basic level, the level of like being able to tell stories about white women doing things, like Mad Max Fury Road is really exciting. Not because it's anything that's vastly different from any other story that's told, but because the perspective is slightly different, right? You could have this sort of sexploitation moment, and the story just goes, nope, that's not important to show you because that's not the perspective we're taking right now. Sorry. And it's those little tiny moments of shifting, of realizing, oh wait, maybe the camera shows the wives bathing sexily in white dresses for 10 seconds, but then the rest of the movie is not going to be like that because that's not what they care about, and it's not what we're going to care about either. That to me is a really important moment, and I hope to see it continue. You see this in fan fiction. Fan fiction, right? Changing the perspective, subverting a story, altering it so that it represents something that Hollywood or corporate America or whoever isn't ready to show. But I hope that we also see it in mainstream movies, in mainstream television. I think that we're beginning to see that happen more, and I hope that that's open to more and more people. I hope that we can have movies that are, representing a much more diverse set of understandings of the world and expectations, because that's the only way that not just how we constitute our stories and tell ourselves stories about ourselves, but about how we see ourselves in the large community of other people that we have to deal with day to day.